Hello, everyone. Hey, Lynn, how you doing? And everyone can hear me, I'm assuming. Aria, yay! Good to see ya. Good to see ya. We have a delay on here. Hi, Angie. Good to see ya. Welcome. I appreciate your being here. It's 7 o'clock, my time in the Boulder, Colorado area, and it was 77 the other day, I believe. And today, excuse me, yeah, and then it went down to 14 degrees. I believe it was yesterday or the night before or whatever. And from 77 to 14. Hey, Angie. And then we had a snowstorm, and it's all melted now, a day and a half later. Hey, Mariko, good to see ya. Nancy, hey, thanks for being here, Nancy. And Mariko. Mariko's in Japan, everyone. I always love to say that. So, in any case, um, the weather is incredible, and so the snow's all gone. After several inches, and then now tonight is supposed to be another snowstorm and get down to 14 again. I understand. Um, it was snowing there in Canada. Woke up to a blanket of fresh snow. How awesome! Hey there, Patty. So we're going to have snow again. Then it's going to start going back into the 40s and 50s and 60s and stuff like that. And the snow usually, when it snows here, it's usually 3 to 7 or 8 inches. And that's right, you never know. And so after it goes up to that temperature, then it drops down again for a while, and then it's gone. Hey, Patty. Good to see you, Becky. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So in any case, we have a bunch of people with us now. How awesome. Yeah, this is great. And what I'd like to do is tell you about this fish. It was in this, I guess it was like a stream, from a river into a stream. Hey, Carmen, good to see you. And it was just having the greatest time of its life, swimming around. And it was just looking all around, looking above it, where the water line was, and it just, saw the sun coming in, and it was looking at the floral on the sides. And then all of a sudden, it just, as it was looking, turning its head, looking at these things, it hit something and looked, and it was this big wall. And the fish said, "Damn." So, okay. Any case, uh, I hope you will appreciate that. So, all right, I crack myself up. Um, all right. And every week I come up with a brand new one, of course, as you all know. And that was it. So, any case, I want to mention a few things. Now that we got 10 people here, we're growing. This is good. We started off early. And let's see, on every Wednesday we have this. And so I know it was funny. Uh, and so as we get into these things, we'll be talking of just, this is called The Gathering. And years ago, I used to have a group called The Gathering, and then in the Scottsdale area of Arizona, lots and lots of people would be coming, and it's similar. And people would ask me questions, and I try to give the best answer that came up from within myself, if an answer did show up. And it usually pertained to the person. It's a fantastic means of communication, I think. It's questions people wanted to know about for a long, long time, pertaining to spirituality, pertaining mostly to healing. And that's what I'm designing this thing for. And so we're just keep it on going, like this, or pertaining to your life. And I may not do with your life as much as I would with just general questions of spirituality and healing, which is my preference. I'm not a fortune teller. I let someone else do that. That's their job. Whenever I predict anything, it usually doesn't happen. It's when I know it inside myself that things can potentially happen, and that's with healing it pertains to. And then I can sometimes see something in the immediate or in the potential future for you, and sometimes even 3 months or 6 months ahead of time. I don't know. And so when I work with people in appointments, I can usually tune in, and sometimes not. It's no big matter or bother to me. I just let what comes come. So, other than that, this Wednesday is every Wednesday, and we love this. Sometimes there's lots of people, and sometimes there's just a lot of people. And on monthly, we have the Healing Circle. That's when I get to work with people individually right there online. And most people can actually sense the energies going on them. When I work with one person at a time, they can feel it going on them or inside of them and changing a situation in their life, or their body may go through an experience of healing in some form. And so I love working like that. And that's what I refer to as the absentee healing, but we're seeing each other in appointments or on the Healing Circle, which is really fantastic. Which brings up the point, I do see people by appointment either through Zoom, and I'm learning how to work with that individually, and also on FaceTime, I can do it, and also in regular telephone appointments without seeing anyone. And it's up to you how you want to handle that. Other than that, I'm going to talk to Lynn, my main person, the hub of it all, and see if we can possibly, instead of doing it once a month, we can do it hopefully once every other week, and see what kind of crowd we get. And if it warrants it, we'll do that. So if you're interested in a weekly Healing Circle, please put in hashtag, which is the #, yes, and we'll consider it then even more so. All right. Other than that, let's see, if anyone's interested in that, let me know, or let Lynn know. The 27th of this month, we are actually having another Introduction to Experiential Healing Series 1. And it'll be for 5 days, an hour a day. And, all right, Aria, good to see you, too. And so it'll be a class that's being offered. The cost is $250. In the future, these classes will go up in cost. But if you do the first introduction class, then you'll be eligible to do the second one. And Lynn, I was thinking about bi-weekly, or unless you feel that weekly is good. What do you think? Please tell me. And there's a delay on here, so I'll wait and talk about something else in the interim. If you're interested in this class, you can take the second series if you've taken the introduction, and there'll probably be a series of 4. Not probably, there will be a series of 4, and then that'll lead into other classes and other dynamics as well. But once you're a part of the class schedule, you'll be a part of the whole program in a sense. And also what I'm doing for the people who take the series 2, which will be not only from this introduction into experiential healing, but from the first one as well. Anyone who takes any of the classes will have access to like a bonus class that I'll be giving all kinds of classes in the potential future. And this one coming up right after, I have to talk to Lynn about the dates on this though, right after or during the series at night, we'll have the bonus class, which will be half an hour. This particular one will be on prayer. and I'll talk to you about it and help you to understand my perspective of prayer. Hi, Eileen. Good to see you. Good to see you. So, if anyone, if anyone doesn't get to see the beginning of this or the middle of this or whatever, or the ending of this, there will be a replay a few minutes afterwards. Please take advantage of it. There's a lot being said, and a lot that will be said. And I really believe with all my heart it pertains to your life. All right. We'll leave it up to consensus, Lynn says. As far as, do you want it once a week, or the Healing Circle online, or as it is once a month, or every other week? Let me know the consensus. The introduction class, it is unbelievable. It's a literal workshop where you're going to be able to get information and experiential exercises, and you'll get the understanding of spiritual healing. And so please take advantage of it. It'll help you change the way that you're working with healing. As you progress, you'll see that what this does, it'll show you a simplicity in getting the greatest effect, the greatest dynamic for yourself or for another person. And it's learning to trust. And it's learning all those dynamics that pertain to spiritual healing. And it'll help you get more into that world, regardless where you are in your world with it, if you're experienced or not experienced. A lot of people have a calling to varying degrees. No one's calling is the same as anyone else's. And so please take advantage of this. It'll help you to find, or the beginning process of helping you to find. Thanks for putting that up, Lynn. And you'll also have access to all these videos and these classes and these workshops and everything else as you sign up to them and participate in them, or put it on replay. You can have a replay for them. They'll all be on replay only for the people that have participated. And also, as a bonus to some of the other people that I've been teaching for quite a while, you'll have access, if you go to any of the classes, you'll have access to all of them. And there's several people that have trained under me in apprentice training and other workshops and stuff like that. Hey, Sherry Lee, good to see you. Good to see you. Please, if you missed anything, go to the beginning when we're done and see the replay. A lot of information, a lot of good information. So participate in the healing classes if you can. There'll be plenty of other free classes that I'll be giving online, little instructional things and stuff like that on this spiritual healing with Mark Ehrlich site. And Lynn and I are actually going to be closing down the Spiritual Matters. All the details will be available next week, but eventually we're going to be closing down Spiritual Matters. There's a lot of people in there, and I've been mentioning in the past, and I'm going to start mentioning again, that we're closing down Spiritual Matters with Mark Ehrlich, and we're just going to have my personal page, Mark Ehrlich, but it's full, so no more people can fit in, and this page, the community page that we make up, because we're a community, and which means to communicate and to be unionized. So, hey Connie, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. And so that Mark Ehrlich will be available still, because there's so many people and it's filled, can't accept any more people. And there's this page that will be accessible, Spiritual Healing with Mark Ehrlich. And the Spiritual Matters with Mark Ehrlich will be shut down. So please, if you're a member of the Spiritual Matters with Mark Ehrlich, like me on this page, or ask me or Lynn to accept you into this private page, and we gladly will. So please take advantage of that. We're going deeply into spiritual healing on this page, in this community, this group, and we'll be exploring it. We'll be going deeper. I'm learning too. Whatever is about you, it's about me. And I know that, and I understand that, and I totally accept that. That's just the way it is. Or else you wouldn't be able to identify with me, and I wouldn't be able to identify with you. That's life. And this is where humankind comes in, is to get to know ourselves. And we don't have an opportunity to unless we have someone else in our life. Otherwise, we'd be living with a bunch of little us's, little me's. But as I say, if there were two of me, I'd be perfect. Not really. So, the 27th is the introduction to spiritual healing, experiential healing, and it's really dynamic. Please take advantage of that. And then on the May 11th through 16th is the experiential healing series 2. Again, 5 days. Progressive course of study, and its understanding of the experiential application of spiritual healing. That's what it's about. And the bonus for anyone who's a participant in any of the classes will be able to tune into the free discourse I give on prayer and any other classes after that. So please take advantage of that. Other than that, let's see if there's any kind of questions I can try to answer here. This is from my friend Tamara. What does a house wear? An address. Address. Forget it. But thanks anyway, Tamara. That was pretty good. And so, all right. Now, Tamara wanted to every week. I don't understand, Angie. Every week because of quarantine? No, every week anyway. Anyway, there's a lot of things that a lot of people are dealing with in their lives, and so I'm going to, just address as many things as I can, Angie. Quarantine or not, and I'm just going to go this route. And also, I'm going to be, when the quarantine's lifted and people feel fairly secure in life, I'm going to go out and work with people and also teach people in that manner as well. So I love being with people. I just absolutely love it. Tamara wanted to know about dreams, and excuse me, here it is. I'd like to get your take on nightmares and dreams. Horrible nightmares sometimes come in waves, and I have them every night for weeks, for months, even at a time, and I don't remember positive dreams. Do nightmares serve a purpose, and can they be released? What are your thoughts on nightmares and dreams? Thanks, Tamara. I have a lot of thoughts. I know that dreams and nightmares are, in a sense, like clouds. You make whatever you want out of them. But I think this is a great question. And I won't, in this answer that I'm giving, I'm not going to chat about or talk about prophetic dreams. That's a whole different other topic. But I feel that dreams are important. And I believe that they're indicators about ourselves, about ourself. And nightmares are not necessarily showing us that we're a bad person by any means, or that we should be afraid of them. But aspects that I should say, have unconsciously hidden within ourselves, and that lead into stories that aren't complete. They're not complete within us yet. And that's my perception. But they need to get our attention in some way or another. That's what I believe and accept. Knowingly or unknowingly within us. And And so nightmares are also pieces of ourself that we're working out in our life. They're things that have been a shock trauma most often. Most often, uh, they've been a shock trauma in our life. And they're things that we can relate to, identify with. They don't come out of nowhere. They won't come into a child even. A nightmare won't come into a child unless that child's had some experience of life, of something of a shock trauma nature. It doesn't have to be horrible. It can be something that shocked them and they didn't know how to process, and then we form pictures around that. Maybe that is the reason for the nightmare. It's something we may not want to be able to face. There are stories that shocked us at one time or another. The things that we've been afraid of or things that we didn't want to see, oftentimes that's the reason for them. Though they're not there to scare you, that's not what a nightmare does. We get scared of nightmares, but the nightmare doesn't have a consciousness to scare you. We get scared. We're shown them because we're afraid to see pieces of our experiences. It's almost like it's time to wake up to a greater reality and a responsibility for ourselves. So remember, they're showing us what we're still afraid of in us to see about ourselves and not to be reactive to it. So we're taking a look at pieces of our experiences, of our pasts, in some way or another, either witnessing it or hearing about something or having something happening to us, a dilemma, drama, or trauma, whatever. And it's those aspects that we're now facing in that dream or in that nightmare scenario. There are things that we have the ability. This is really cool too, and we have the ability to stop ourselves for a second. We just had a nightmare, woke up from one or whatever. We can stop ourselves, or after we wipe our foreheads off from sweating and shaking and everything else, we can stop ourselves and say, wait a second now. Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop myself because nothing physically hurt me. And even though someone in the dream might be yelling at you or showing you scary things or reminding us of scary situations or whatever, or scenarios that were based upon things that had happened with us. So here we have this great opportunity to stop ourselves for the moment, and it's almost like stepping out of yourself. And hey Taylor, good to see you, my dear friend. It's almost like having the ability to stop yourself and step out of yourself and contemplate, okay, can I see this? And you're talking to yourself, can I see this objectively and indifferently, just for a moment? Then I can go back to my nervousness and fear, without emotion or being involved with it, without the reaction. Can I stop myself and being objective is standing outside of yourself, looking at yourself or at the situation without emotion, without reaction, and observe it just for a moment. Then as we're observing it, we have the great golden opportunity to watch it. It loses its life. Literally, it loses its life, and then for the moment, we're not afraid of it until we try to remember it again. Honest to God, that happens. So this is just one way to work with that. Let's see, we're doing great. Now, I have a friend, Samantha, in Chicago. How to be loving to someone that is hard to love. Great question. How to be loving to someone that is hard to love. Well, hi, Samantha, first of all. There's many answers to this, and I'll just try to give a simple answer. In my life, in my experience personally, what I do is I try not to fight people. And if I find myself fighting someone, I stop myself. If I can get conscious enough, if I'm not fighting them inside of myself or in my mind, trying to overdo or outdo them or whatever, then I'm I'm stopping myself and I'm not fighting them. My place is to work with people. So if someone doesn't like something and I'm going to react, then I'm not working with someone. And I have to stop myself to remind myself, hey, look, I'm supposed to be here working with people, helping people to understand something more. And if I'm giving an example of resistance, what does that do? That's not helping them. That's just going to turn them away and have them walk away. I want them to see a truth about themselves or to witness a healing that's happening within them, and either immediately or eventually in incremental ways or whatever, I don't know. So everything is for people that we dislike, there's a reason why we dislike them, because it's something to do with us. If there's a reason for people that are difficult to love, maybe there's something about us that's difficult to love, a difficulty. And so, again, it goes back to, okay, wait a second now. If I'm having a difficult time loving this person as a person, it doesn't have to be as a lover or anything like that, just as a person, then what is difficult about them? How can I identify with that difficulty? How does that apply to me? What was my experience of that growing up, that I was taught to resist people like that? Maybe there's all these triggers that we're fighting. It's highly possible. Not saying that's what's with you or anyone else in this world or with me, but maybe there's triggers and things that initiated our resistance with them every time we see them or are thinking about them or are near them. And the trigger is to fight more, I think. And it triggers us, though, to our lower vibration and draws us into our older patterns that we thought we conquered in our life, or that we didn't need to participate in life. But they were originally shown to us, these older patterns, and we participated in them because our soul is bringing them up to be worked with. And to work something out, you're working with it for that moment by taking a look, how can I identify with that? I hope this makes sense to everyone. I truly do. And so there's a friend that didn't used to be a friend for me. And he used to be the most negative and demeaning person in the whole world, not only to me, but to anyone he chose in life. And then one day, he was in front of me through whatever situation. This was years ago, and as he was in front of me, he started being his destructive self. And I decided to listen to him. And that's all it was. I decided to listen to him, not take anything on, or not so that I can find flaw in him, but just to listen, to see what he was really saying, and to see what he was taught in life, and the patterns he took on, and how important they were for him, and for what reasons. And he defended himself through reaction and taught patterns. That's what he was doing in his life. That was his life of defense. And it also is, in another sense, control. But he learned to do that because that was his experience of life for survival. That was his reaction of life for survival and what he was taught to do to survive. As he talked, I listened to him for what he was trying to express, not what he was saying. Not at all. And I got to see him as being hurt in life as I was watching him. And I kept that in mind. That thought did not leave me. I saw him as hurt, and I felt bad for him. You can call it compassion, whatever. I felt bad for him that he was taught that. He was brought up that way. And that somehow turned into like a sense of humility. Not that I'm a humble person, but that turned into a sense of humility. And that's what his feelings turned into as he continued. That humility. It somehow affected him as I found that within myself for him. It affected him, and his demeanor changed most immediately as he was like picking up on the sense that was coming from me. He was feeling that and sensing that. He saw that I was not fighting him in any way. And he longed for that. Longed for that. He saw that I trusted him. He saw that I honored him. And I just listened. When an answer from me was really super important for him, I told him the truth, whatever that answer was that he was requesting. And there was no emotion in the truth because it's the truth. It came from my heart. And that's what was most important. And it doesn't, when you're telling someone the truth, there's no superfluous chatter or anything else. And it doesn't warrant, and it can't be made into a reaction for the absurd. It won't go there. When someone's hearing you and you left the door open for them to hear you because you're listening to them. This is just one scenario. But the neat thing is that from that moment on, his life changed from my reaction to him. It's almost like something clicked in him, and he no longer, I don't know but this for fact, but he no longer remembered the way that he was in communicating. And it changed. His whole life changed. So that's my answer. Sue, first of all, she said she'll be watching the replay today, and she wanted to thank you, Lynn. My question this week is about grace. I cannot remember talking or you talking about it or writing about it. Probably not in any interaction that I had with Sue, or maybe I did, I don't remember. Sue's been following for a long time, many years, and going to lots and lots of classes and understanding things about spirituality and healing, and she's really adept with this as well, in a lot of the apprentice programs, etc. She said, I relate grace to the God out there, but I know it flows all around me. How to accept it without feeling guilt or undeserving? Big question for a lot of people. A lot of people. Well, hi Sue. First, when you do see the replay of this, be sure to put hashtag, but you don't know what hashtag is, so put # and say, you rock, Mark. # you rock. No separation of words. So, all right. To me, and just at this moment, because every moment changes, grace is a moment that we and the godliness are in union, just in the moment of my thought process or feeling or understanding. Grace is in the moment that we and the godliness are in union. It is the moment that our needs are being met without us interceding. It's being in the flow of all life that is all working out around us in flow. It's really no different when we help someone without condition or expectation. Something is coordinating within us in that no expectation and no conditions. That something I'm referring to as that being, that is a consciousness that has the same intelligence to keep our body in the same shape. And if we didn't have the life of that memory of that being, then the cells would fall apart. It knows the perfect body for who we are and what we were born into and to later develop into. It knows that body. It knows the structure. It has the perfect form. And the grace is everything working together. For this moment in my life is what I'm thinking. My things are, I refer to it as the union for the moment in the mind and life of that godliness. And it's the divinity's love that's sharing with us that keeps it. It's the gluten that keeps it all together. That keeps it all together. And that's where the grace comes in. And it's then that the surprise to us that something and at some time some wondrous act happens for us. That too is grace. And either knownst or unbeknownst to us. And being the reciprocator of that wonder, the wonderful thing that has happened or happening. So I think that's because of that giving that we participated in. There's an equal and opposite reaction. There's a reciprocating reaction that happens. As we're coming from an evolved place, as we're coming from a giving place, as we're coming from a loving place without conditions, then we find things happening to us by the grace, because we've set ourselves up for it naturally. We can't force grace to happen. I knew a fellow in my order, he used to do things purposefully to chalk up grace points. He was a grace monger. And so he would always do something purposefully with no love from his heart, no caring, not willing to share anything. He only did things as a grace monger, as we called it. Or I called it, I think, or someone mentioned to me. And he always wondered why things didn't happen for him. And that's why, I believe, in my perspective. So it's also trusting that creative consciousness, and then the grace comes upon us, through us or around us in our lives. So my perception of grace for this moment, Sue. My friend Michelle, she wanted, may I teach my grandkids to use their own intention to do healing on themselves, family and friends, after they washed their hands, of course. Yeah. I say, oh my goodness, of course, teach the children. There's been so many children that I've worked with, many children. And initially, it's kind of funny because initially I let them try it on me after they've had the experience, because I really want them to get into it after I've worked with them, or their mothers or fathers, whoever's there. and I have, and if it's not the child, then I still have the child sense the energetics, the flow of the life force. I have a child go into that to try to get the experience of it. And especially if I'm working with them and they've never seen me before, they're kind of freaked out. What is this guy doing? And so they get to experience the energies through introducing it to them. And they're fascinated with it, and they let me work with them most often. Matter of fact, I don't know of a child so far that hasn't wanted to perceive the energies that they're feeling, or that I'm working with their mother or father or brother or sister who's with them. So afterwards I say, okay, if I worked with the parent or someone, and I'll say, you want to feel it too? They say, yeah. Or maybe, yeah. They're scared of it a little bit. So I put my hands first on their heads, and I ask a blessing on them. And as I do, I say, okay, God, help them to perceive of this. And then I'll put a hand, say, on their shoulder, on their arm, and I'll just scan down a little bit. And I know that there's a huge projection of spiritual energy that's going into their arm, and they're feeling it. And some may feel it all over their body, but they've never had this experience before, and they're describing this. And they're blown away. Most often, they're just totally blown away, and that they express. And so I teach them in a couple seconds to get rid of something. Say even potentially, I'll say, you want to do it to me? And they'll say, yeah. Or they'll say, yeah. And I'll create something. I have the ability to create things in my body. So I'll create a mishap in, say, my arm, and I'll have them go like this, and they'll say, oh, I feel a difference right here. And I say, okay, you got to get rid of it. You got to help me. And so they'll put their hands there, and they'll feel it go. And that introduces them to it. And so I love working with kids to show them this stuff and to help them. I've even had children years ago. There used to be lots of kids who came to my workshop that the parents would let their children of, say, 9 and 10, 11, and all the way up to 14 go to their workshops, and even older, all the way up to 17. They would pay for their kids to go to the workshops. And so, and the kids understood. From the age of 9 all the way up, the kids understood. They don't have all the experience that adults have in life, but they still have experience, so they can relate to these things. And a lot of these children, younger and older children, they work with their families. They work with, other people, their friends at school, scare the kids at school with it, whatever, which I think is kind of neat. And so, then there's another question here. My dear friend Taylor, hi Mark, thank you for these live videos. They have been so helpful. Thank you. This time has been triggering for me, particularly triggering the fear of death, mostly death of loved ones. And I would love to hear what guidance you have to offer around this, pertaining to fear. And well, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss of your loved ones, Taylor. But try to imagine that you live in both worlds, life and death. Try to imagine, and what would it feel like living in death? You're not alone, like these comic books or stories tell us, that you're in limbo, phantom land, or whatever, the phantom zone, as Superman used to call it. You're not alone. There's beings that are alive And when we pass from the well, I'll get into that in a minute, but um, deep inside of you, you realize this is not the end. That's what's important. Does that make sense? Deep inside of you, this is not the end, and you realize that inside. When we pass from the so-called other side, we return to here, if that makes sense. And this is what people call the process of reincarnation. It's not just reincarnating here, we reincarnate there as well. We incarnate there as well. So, as we pass from the other side, all these beings, as we return here, in the process of returning here, they're not in mourning. They don't mourn, but there is a joy that they're experiencing. Though when they incarnate to a body here, it's most painful. We have to go through the excruciations of being born and going through life and everything else. This is a denser understanding or whatever. This is a denser world we live in. The ones that you mourn here, they must have been a part of your life to show you love. Excuse me. We wouldn't mourn someone unless we had some sense of love from them. That they've shown you love, that you experienced it in some uncanny or canny way, realistic way from them. There's so many that you've influenced in many ways that you've shown love to as well. And those people are here to experience an aspect of love that they've needed. And that's what we, in a sense, do when we mourn. We're missing that love, but that love is within you. It's instilled within you, it's shared with you, it's given to you of what you've perceived. You've been influenced in so many ways of how to love. And even if it's someone that we hated when we were a lot younger and we found out that they died, there's some remorse because they were a part of our life. They gave us something, regardless whether it's creative or destructive. They still gave us something that helped us to grow if we stopped and took the time to notice that. We're really here to help people to realize what is lying dormant within each one of us. And how are you succeeding in this consciously, I want to ask. With each soul that passes, this is an influence for us and so many others. I once wrote something that it's so easy to look for the miracles in the birth of a child, but with the passing of the child, say if they died, they passed, notice how it affects so many and how it touches so many in their lives and influences us to learn how to love even deeper. That's what's important. So it's good to mourn. There's nothing incorrect of that. But as we mourn, bring the memory back of how they loved us or how they influenced us, which is an aspect of how to be a better person for someone else. Because if we're in the dislikes of it, then we're facing ourselves. Then we're facing ourselves. And we always will until we come to that recognition. So, I hope that answers your question. And I know that people are passing, but I also know there's more to the story. And so, Michelle, my dear friend, intuition. Sometimes mine works, and sometimes I say, hush up. I never do. Never do. I have the intuition because I've asked for it, and it's been a part of my life anyway. And I asked to learn how to develop it. That's it. Hey, Penny Yates and Steve and Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Good to see you, my dear friend. So, sometimes mine works, and sometimes I say, hush up. Never do. Always keep it going. And I'll say, okay, I have to catch myself in thinking. I have to stop my thinking, go back to intuition. And, or it'll say, I say, hush up, this new person has some unique ideas. Then as they speak, I feel that they are speaking untruths. Good for you. Good for the intuition. So are we each existing in our own little world? Yeah. Or are we all sharing this experience of day-to-day life on Earth? Well, we're living in our own world based upon what our experience of life is on this Earth. That's my answer. And I mean, why lie, she said, unless it is true to them, or is it ego? Thanks, Mark. Well, it's true to them only, and they know it's not, but it's true to them only because that's how they feel they're going to be accepted in what they're expressing or giving, which is expressing. And so I think the most important thing to do in life is to just be objective when you're listening with people, and be compassionate from your heart as deeply as you can. And a lot of people will change the story as you're listening to them if you're really true to yourself inside. That's following your intuition as well, without contributing to their lie. I truly hope that makes sense in some way. So, this life is everything that we're here to work out. All that is destructive within ourselves. That's what this life is for. Constantly we're given an opportunity to address, to redo, to recorrect. And after a while, we begin to pay attention to the voice that is creative within. The voice helps us to hear and to see through our intuition, which is our inner teaching. The voice helps us to hear and see. All we have to do is step outside ourselves and listen. That's all. Just listen. And that will tell us what's real or not so real. But it's real to that person because that's how they get attention. And so in finding someone that has attention or that wants attention, that's in front of me or whatever, I listen to what they say, and I think that the truth comes out. Then also through the intuition, as we're really listening to them and seeing where they're coming from, where in life they've been hurt, or what has happened with them that they were taught, we get to perceive that inside of us as we're listening. Just a little bit, or what we need to know will be shown to us through the inner teaching, the intuition. That's what intuition means, inner teaching. It's waiting for us to blend with it. My perspective of life. And the voice is always guiding and directing us. You know, the voice that you're talking about, the voice of intuition, or the sight of intuition. It's always guiding and directing us. Always. All we have to do is stop ourselves from the resistances or from the destructivenesses, whatever this is called, and step aside from ourselves. Because if we're having those things, then it's about us. If we're having, wanting to get away from the person, maybe someone wants to get away from us. for a reason, and we have to ask ourselves why. So, Michelle also asked, why do some of us only accept short-term healing? It's difficult initially. Our lives are difficult initially. We're born into a difficult life initially. And so because we have the influences of our families, of our friends, of the people we grow up with, the world we are born into, the environment that we're placed in, everything. It's difficult. And this is what we're taught to accept in survival, in the things that are our experiences. But this is not the real world. The real world is a blending of both worlds. That's the reality. That's why we were born here. And as we begin to find this out, the healing is more long-term. As I work with people in the healing circles and appointments and stuff, many people have relieved of themselves, of this world, and trusted the Creator during the healing. They've let go, and of the and knew that there was something more, not knowing what to call it: Creator, the Nameless One, God, the Christos, or the feminine nature, and they allow it to take themselves over with this, not realizing how real healing is. It's, or should I say, it's not real. It's realizing how real healing is about to happen, or something is happening, or something is changing, not knowing what, not caring, not trying to analyze, figure it out, break it down, critique, or anything else, or thinking about it while it's happening. They're just giving themselves to what they call their godliness, their divinity, the Creator, the universal mind, the Christos, whatever they want to call it. It's there. Sure, we have the ability to call on these other beings and forces, but it's all within the mind of God, or else it wouldn't have function within us and around us in our lives. If we get reactions to our prayers, that's why. So that's, to me, what real healing is, and it lasts longer. Sometimes people, for a short period of time, they get a healing, and what I'll do is I'll tell people, hey, look, most people, and this is statistical, not analyzed on paper and like that, but this is my statistical understanding, is that most people will have an experience right there, and other people will have an experience as soon as they walk out the door, and others walking down the street 2 weeks or 2 months later saying, oh my God, when did this leave me? If that should happen, which is great. And so who's to determine, even with ourselves, what's a shorter or longer time? So that's another scenario I'd like to throw in there. Or it may lead into a situation of finding a cause for the first time in 50 years. That's what I tell people too. And because that has been the experience of some people. And some people, this helps them to heal themselves as well. To let them know that they too are doing something within themselves. Some people need that. Whatever's needed for each person. Everyone is just so darn unique. Then there was a question, does pain always have a message of stinking thinking? I think she got that from me. Does pain always have a message of stinking thinking? No, not at all. Pain in our body is a warning system to indicate that something's incorrect. It can mostly often happen or be worked with and be relieved and corrected. Most often, it can be corrected or worked with. And oftentimes, emotional pain is the stinking thinking, as you refer to it, or so I do. But not all the time. Emotional pain is not always stinking thinking. Sometimes emotional pain is indicative of chemical imbalance. Who knows? Who knows? But things can be worked with, always, to varying degrees with each person. That's what's important. And that's what I call true spiritual healing. And then there was a question, must we consciously let go of our story? For example, when you help us to let go of issues, when I'm working with you guys, when we're, let's say, at the age of 7, it really works. But you ask us or remind us, thus we are conscious of it. When I do that with people, when I'm working with some of those emotional issues, anxieties, worries, or fears, or whatever, deep embedded stuff, and it's not physical, I'll do it with the emotional and mental perceptive. And when I've done this with you at times, and when I asked you to go back to the story, if you remembered it, it wasn't the same anymore. It's different. The charge wasn't there anymore. And oftentimes you weren't even able to remember the darn story that was so important prior to that. And I can help you with this oftentimes, and I do, and I teach. When I give the classes, I teach a different way to do the same thing with similar result that you can do for yourself. So, I do know that we get more conscious as we do let go of our story. And we let go of our story as being given the opportunity to be somewhere else during that letting go process. In that moment when you were mentally and emotionally distraught. And until we try to go back to the story, the same story that was worked with, or you worked with, or I helped you work with, then you go back and it's not there anymore. But notice that when we're out of that story, we're not in it. When we're out of the story for the moment or 2 moments, we're not in it. So, all right, Nancy, my new friend, how to escape negative people around you? Do you have to cut them off? Then you find yourself alone and need to raise your own energy. I don't believe in cooties, first of all. And cooties are the feelings and the memories and everything else that embed themselves within you. I don't believe in cooties. And they're not going to stay with me. I know that if I'm living in my truth, that's all that matters. I don't have to escape anyone ever. People usually want to run away from me. So you're not really alone. Understand that. You're with something that's just so much greater and that never really had forgotten you. And it just loves you. But on the other side is we love the muck that we're in. We're addicted to the muck. And we think it's our foundation because that's what we've been taught. And it's not even real. It's not real. If we're addicted to it, that's the reality until we find out otherwise, a different wisdom. Then we can blend gently and beautifully into the spirituality with a different outcome, with a greater outcome. And that, the more often we do that, the more often we're conscious of that spirituality that dwells within us, that's unbreakable, that's unconditional in its love, then is that happens more often as we remember, bring the members back of the spirituality, the love of within that guides us, directs us, and protects us. That's the reality. And we don't have to worry about escaping other people. We don't have to worry about the cooties. and we don't have to cut them off. Well, sure, if they're destructive people, we don't have to have them in our life because we found something greater that's going to, as we follow that recognition, that's what we're doing. We're recognitioning ourselves, seeing something another way. Then they don't have a part in our life. No reason for it. We're getting late here. And so I really wanted to thank everyone and remind everyone that, and I apologize for going over, that we do have next Wednesday another gathering. Please remember that. And then coming up, please do sign up if you when we put it out there. It's not going to go out for another couple days or a week. But we do have another introduction and to experiential healing, where you'll get the practice and the expertise in working with the basics of this, which will lead into, that's happening on May 27th for a week, 5 days, and then comes into the Series 2, Experiential Spiritual Healing, and that'll be for 5 days as well. And then there'll be the bonus that everyone who's participated in any of this stuff, even in my past workshops and apprentice trainings, you'll be able to participate in that. And we'll just take from there. Hey, we're getting a lot of every other weeks here, Lynn. All right, thanks, Lynn, for the information, putting it up there. Good, good, good. That's the website. Go to that. It will have everything on it. If someone wants an appointment with me, please take advantage of it. Take advantage, whether it be something physiological, biological, neurological, and oftentimes emotional and or mental perceptions. I might be able to help you with those. With the spiritual healing, I love to work with it on phone, and telephone call, or through Zoom or through FaceTime. And blessings to everyone here. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Blessings, blessings, blessings. And this will be up for replay in a little while.